And while the Wall Street Journal is reporting the next president will inherit a strong economy, the recent jobs report suggests the labor market may be slowing down. Here with us now to break it all down is good friend of the show, the host of the Baker Show podcast, Baker Machado. Baker, good morning.
Good morning, Hannah.
So let's start first with that jobs report. I know this is something you follow very closely. Break it down for us.
Yeah, Hannah, it wasn't the best jobs report that we've seen. This was actually the slowest jobs growth we've seen since December 2020. We only added about 12,000 new jobs last month. We were expecting a lot more than that, 100,000. We should note the unemployment rate did stay steady at 4.1%. That's still the lowest pre-election rate we've seen in about 24 years. Now, the reason why this jobs report was so small is because of the hurricanes that we saw in the South. We also had some labor impasses with companies like Boeing. Specifically, they subtracted over 40,000 jobs because of the labor issues that they were having. But a lot of economists are saying, Hannah, this is not a bad sign with the 12,000 jobs. They're not worried by this report. They look at this more as an aberration, really not sort of a sign of a worsening job market on the horizon. And we should note one last thing here. Healthcare and government jobs really were sort of the big drivers here.
And these new unemployment numbers, Baker, gas prices, they've ticked down this week. Inflation levels have now dropped in the lowest in 3.5 years, I believe. What does this tell you about the health of the economy?
Hannah, I'm glad you mentioned that. I mean, if you look at sort of the three big pillars of the economy that people are using to vote on Tuesday, it's gas prices, inflation, and interest rates. Gas prices have fallen to a 3-year low. And when you actually look at the gas prices in all of the swing states that are going to be deciding who the next president is, they're even lower than that. Inflation, the gauge that the Fed uses to check inflation, the consumer price index, fell 2.4% last month. That's close to the inflation numbers that they were before the pandemic. So that's good also. And on the topic of interest rates, you know, the Fed cut interest rates back in September for the first time in 4 years. We're likely going to get another interest rate cut in the month of November and maybe another one in December. But those cuts are likely going to be small. But either way, the Fed is chipping away and bringing down those interest rate numbers. So either way, all three of those drivers that people care about when it comes to the economy, when it comes to their vote on Tuesday, are coming down, which is really good news for Americans.
So, Baker, there's a meme that's going around, and you and I spend a lot of time on social media. We've seen a lot of similar ones. For Black Friday, people don't need to buy another cheap TV. I don't think they need to stand in line right after having their Thanksgiving meals. But are people looking for those cheaper groceries? What does it feel like the cost of basic food items are still sky high? We hear it from everyone.
Yeah, Hannah, it's not just even food prices, it's still rent prices, it's still housing prices. All of those things are still really expensive. And then on top of that, there was a recent study that just came out within the last week that 65% of Americans are waiting until after the election to make any big purchases that they might be having just for fear of what happens with who's going into the White House. So Americans right now are really sort of in a save mode right now. So this is why you're seeing a lot of people out there and companies doing deals for people to try to buy stuff. And it's because nobody's spending money right now. So right now, Americans are saving until after they see what happens after Tuesday.
Well, do you think consumers will see the prices of eggs, milk, meat come down before the end of the year?
Yes, I do. It's still going to take a little bit of time, but Hannah, think about where we were at the beginning of the pandemic. The inflation numbers were close to 10%. So yes, the driver of food costs and all those things have still been high. They have progressively come down, and all expectations from economists going into next year, regardless of who wins on Tuesday, is that those numbers for inflation, including food costs, will continue to come down lower and lower and lower.
At the close of the stock market yesterday, we saw record highs. Why is the stock market doing so well?
Look, I mean, this has been a great year for the stock market. I mean, this has been record highs across the board for the Fed, for the Dow and for the S&P. There's incredible confidence right now in terms of a lot of these companies. Most of them are all the tech companies that just reported their earnings within the last week about where things are going with AI and so many other things. So that is why you're seeing so much bullish outlook when it comes to a lot of these stock figures. And I think it's also a lot of these companies are betting that Donald Trump is going to win on Tuesday, which they feel like is going to be beneficial for them as well. So that's why you're seeing the market do so well within the last couple of weeks.
Always doing a great job breaking down complicated topics. Baker Machado, thank you so much. Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.